Hello, this is Sharat Kalari with Jessica Jiang from SharePlex Technical Support. Today's topic of discussion is how to run trace on capture process. The process flowchart shows the processes and data flow in SharePlex replication. Capture reads online redo logs or archive logs and writes messages into the capture queue. Reader reads messages from the capture queue and fills in the key information, then writes to the export queues. Export sends messages to the target side and import receives them and eventually post executes the SQL into the target database. To investigate the capture slow issue, you can use trace capture command in SharePlex version 8 and above to help diagnose the problem. It gives a summary of capture activities and where it is spending time on. By default, it runs for 15 minutes and turns off automatically. The OCAP trace file will be generated under the WADR log directory. You can also specify the duration with minutes. Now we'll see how to interpret the trace capture output. Here is an example of the output from the trace capture. It gives the total number of operations, percentage of redo records processed for replicated activities, and the latency value in seconds. Time is broken down by the capture main thread idle time waiting for the data from the log reader and the percentage of time spent on processing the redo log record. It also shows how much time capture spent writing to the capture queue. If source is rack, it also shows statistics on the log reader threads and rack threads broken down by instances and shows the percentage of data read, idle time waiting for data, getting data, or querying from Oracle. It also shows how busy is the sequencer thread, which sorts the records coming from different rack nodes by SEN. Here is another example for the trace capture output. In this case, the log reader for the node 4 is spending 75% of the time querying from Oracle. It is slow on querying from the $GV instance. If capture is current with Oracle, you'll see a latency at 2 seconds. By default, capture will delay by 2 seconds to prevent itself from reading ahead of Oracle. If capture is behind Oracle and idle time waiting for data is high, it means the log reader or the rack thread is slow and you can try increasing the below parameters. For the non-rack, SPOCT log queue size should be set to 8192 or 16384. If it is rack, the SPOCT log queue size should be set to 8192 multiplied by the number of rack nodes. SPOCT OPS queue size should be set to 8192. If write to the queue time is high, increase the SPQ queue shim size to 512 MB or 1 gig specified in bytes. Be aware that this parameter is per queue for both capture queue and export queue. Make sure the system has enough memory to handle the increased value. If querying from Oracle time is high, on rack, capture queries from the $GV instance to check the node status. Sometimes capture may get stuck on this query and you need to collect the stats on the underlying Oracle fixed X dollar tables to improve the query performance. Percentage processed tells the density of data being replicated, which means the number of records being processed versus the total number of activities in the redo log. Lower processed percentage can cause capture to be slow as it has to ignore most of the records that are not being replicated. Here are the best practices for the capture performance. Increase SPOCT log read size to 512. Increase the SPOCT checkpoint frequency to 100,000 to reduce the checkpoints. If capture is constantly behind Oracle by 30 minutes or more, set SPOCT use DST to 0 to turn off the daylight savings logic. If the server time is different from the redo time, you may need to set SPOCT use DST to 1 to turn on the daylight savings logic. If the transx files are over 20 or 30 MB in the WADR state, then set SPOCT OLP trace to 0 on 763. This parameter value is 0 in the latest version 8 releases. Increase the SPQ queue shim size to 256 MB or higher if it is slow on queue writes. For rack, balance the data load among rack nodes for better capture performance. If capture is slow in ASM environment, upgrade to the latest Shapelex version 8 and default would be using the native SPOCT ASM use OCI set to 0. For additional tuning tips on troubleshooting capture slow, please check out our KB article 122739. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Have a wonderful day.